Our next guest played 586 games for the Vancouver Canucks, including a then record streak of 534 consecutively. The centerman on the legendary West Coast Express line. Our pleasure to welcome back to Sekeres and Price, Mr. Brendan Morrison. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
You're more than welcome. You looked like you were having a good time at the game last night.
Man, what an atmosphere. It was electric in there at the beginning, and as a former player, I haven't been in that situation before. I've never actually watched a playoff game at Rogers Arena. So to get in that atmosphere and feel the buzz, it was really exciting.
Kessler seemed pumped up about it too. Like the two of you guys have all played so many of these high pressure games, and the two of you just look tickled pink to be a part of the whole thing. It was as a third party, it is pretty cool, I think, for everybody to see that.
Well, it really gets the adrenaline going and the juices flowing again. Like, hey, I want to be out there and be a part of this, because as a player, you're kind of in your own bubble, right? I mean, you're so focused on what you have to do, preparation, just getting ready for the game, whatever, resting, eating, all that stuff. You don't really understand the magnitude of it from the fans' perspective, or being up in the audience, and you don't really fully appreciate it until you have an opportunity to do it, really. So it's nerve-wracking. Like, you don't have any control. As a player, you feel like you have some control shift to shift to impact the game, but up there you have no control at all. And there's a few moments there where I found myself like narrating the game, like, move the puck. All right, you can see things developing, obviously, when you sit up a little higher, when the game slows down a little bit. But it was really fun to be a part
of. When they put the camera on you on the big screen, tell me about that moment, because you got quite the ovation.
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't really know what was happening, so it kind of caught me off guard. My buddy's like, hey. So in hindsight, I'm like, man, I probably should have done what Buble did. I should have stood up and I should have got all fired up, but I kind of just sat there in my seat and waved the towel, which was cool. But it's always nice. I've always been very appreciative of the fans here. They've always treated me very well, with a lot of respect. And it's funny, even coming back all these years later and being at the rink, hearing stories from people that come up to you and, I got into hockey because of the team you were on, or because of you as a player. I liked you. And it's pretty neat. I mean, it's very humbling.
Did you think about chugging the beer?
I was gonna go full Kelsey mode and just pound a beer, I should have. Hey,
if you chug the beer, you get a bigger ovation than Buble, Brendan. I'm just putting that out there. Next time,
you have a valid point. I'll be ready next time. I'll be ready.
You've scored in some big goals in the playoffs. Been on the ice for big ones. You were on the ice for the Jovo in the box goal. You've seen those big moments. Did you want to jump down on the ice and score a big goal for the Canucks last night, because they needed one in the third period so badly? Talk about what the frustration was like, to be in a game like that where you were there, you could taste it, but you just couldn't get it.
I mean, I think we would all agree it was a very winnable game, right? I mean, look how many. I mean, they gave up nothing, really. I mean, I felt so bad for Casey DeSmith in the start there. I mean, there's nothing he could have done, really, on all three goals, I don't think. The first one was a high tip, didn't see it through traffic. The second goal by Forsberg was world class. That's a goal on any goalie in any league. I mean, it was magnificent. And the third one is not a great turnover and ends up in the net. But I mean, you could sense, okay, 3-1, they got one in the second there. If they can get one early in the third or halfway through the third, they're going to win this game. And I mean, they had 3 or 4 point blank chances. I mean, things that they probably couldn't do ever again. Like, I mean, even go back to the first period, you look at Pettersson. I would say 95 times, 99 times out of 100, he scores that.
Sure.
Right. And then, he had Puce Suter later in the third period, kind of, I don't know if he was surprised or didn't see the puck, kind of had an open net. And then you had Joshua. I mean, I don't give him that puck 10 times. I don't think he could hit the post like that once again. Like, just very, very unfortunate stuff, because it was a very winnable game.
Hey, we got the right guy to answer this question because, of course, Brendan was one of the great playmakers in the National Hockey League in Canucks history. He made his living getting guys the puck in scoring, shooting areas as much as shooting himself. Brendan, when they block that many shots and when the tactic is so clearly we are going to get ourselves in front of the puck to block it before it gets to the goalie, what's the antidote? What would you be doing out there to avoid some of those Nashville shot blocks?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and you could tell Nashville was a desperate team last night. They were playing like a team with their season on the line. If they go down 2-0, their season is more than likely done. So I mean, they laid everything out. I think some adjustments you can make. I know if you notice Vancouver's power play, they really brought three guys up high, and we're trying to attack downhill. Looking for lanes that way. But I think a lot of times there's just this little hesitation shooting the puck. I think they need to look to manufacture some one-time shots, right? Instead of getting the puck, holding it, waiting, because once you have that split second, it's too late. So and there's guys that can pound the puck for the Canucks. So I do see a little bit of hesitation, but I think that hesitation creeps into your mind when shots do get blocked, and then you start looking for the perfect play, which then causes frustration because it's not always there, or you go to make a pass, it hits a stick or it hits a skate and you're not executing, and now all of a sudden you're not scoring on the power play, and now all of a sudden that carries on to how you feel 5-on-5. So it's a really a fickle thing, but I think focus on shooting pucks a little quicker, and sometimes it doesn't even always have to be a hard pounded slap shot. You look at the goals scored in the series. I mean, 3/4 of them have been off of wrist shots with deflections, traffic in front of the net. So it's a huge skill to get the puck to the net.
Yeah.
Just pass a defender's shin pads, just get it past his body to the net.
JT Miller in the postgame talked about one of the reasons why he's trying the slap pass is because McDonough is in the way every time he wants to shoot it. Talk to me about the slap pass and if you think that could be an antidote and work here a bit.
Well, absolutely. You look at two guys you guys know pretty well that are legends with this team, the Sedins, who kind of mastered that slap pass, right? They execute that kind of the high tip or the slot tip extremely well, and I think could be effective here. I think if you look at other teams around the league, namely Tampa Bay, who has the top power play in the league, you watch and I'm not saying everybody can do what Kucherov can do because he's a special player, but you watch how a lot of times puck will come to him from Hedman up top, and he'll look like he's shooting that one-timer, and he's incredible at faking that one-time shot in one motion, laying that into the slot to Braden Point, and it creates a bit of a pocket there for Point for an open shot. So, I mean, there's some ways around it, but you got to be bang on with your execution.
What did the ice quality look like for you last night, or was it just nerves and being off a little bit because the pucks were jumping over sticks? Quinn Hughes falling a couple of times, and do you have to just simplify your game when that sort of stuff is happening?
Yeah, it looked a couple of times there like the puck rolled a bit. I thought for the most part it was okay.
Yeah.
They moved the puck around pretty crisp a few times, but there was a few moments when it was bouncing. But again, I think I didn't mind Vancouver's game. I mean, Nashville was hanging on, and again, you can look at the shots and say, well, they only had 4 shots or 5 shots after the first period, and they only had 12 shots after the second period. But for the most part, they controlled the game. It was a frustrating game from that standpoint because I thought early on at one point I'm like, geez, they got to have 15 shots on that. I looked up, they had 2. Right, and it's MVP of the first star last night. His name was Block Shot. That guy was real good.
So is fine tuning for you? Like, do you think Rick Tocchet doesn't need to totally reinvent given the puck possession there? Is it just a few little things that you'd do if you were coaching here?
I think a few little things. I mean, a couple minor tweaks. I don't think there's any reason to hit the panic button. Like I said, there's a good chance. Vancouver wins that game. They're up 2-0. I mean, they probably deserved to win the game last night. I mean, with how they carried the play, a couple minor things, I do think, and I do think Pettersson needs to get going, right? I don't like to single any one guy out, but just, I didn't love his body language after he missed that, kind of head back, shrugging his shoulders. I mean, he's a key guy for the team. He's a driver, and And I think he just needs to keep shooting the puck, right? He needs something good to happen early, whether it's a goal, a lucky goal, or he gets an assist. And it's funny, as an offensive guy, I mean, even if you score 10 goals without a game, 10 games without a goal, and you score an empty net goal, it's like you have your feeling back. It's an amazingly weird thing. So something good needs to happen for him early and really get him going.
9 attempts for him last night. Do you just tell him, just keep doing it? You just get, like, if it gets blocked, doesn't matter. Just keep shooting, or do you ask him to be more selective? Any other tips there for him?
Keep shooting. Yeah. And it's such a hard thing to do. But I mean, I wasn't a huge goal scorer when I played. I mean, but you go through these phases and you mentally battle yourself when things don't go exactly how you want them to. Then it creeps in, But I think the best anecdote for this is just to have short-term memory, right? I mean, you just have to erase what happened last shift and just focus on the next shift and trust yourself.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that compounded his problems is his first few shots were blocked, and then he started looking past, and he was clearly looking past, and Nashville knew he was looking past. And like, here's the thing, Brendan, and you can probably relate. If you're struggling as a winger or as a defenseman, you have other modus operandi. You can get in on the forecheck and obliterate someone through the boards. Defensemen can throw themselves in front of a puck, get a big shot block for the bench, and the guys love it. When you're an offensive centerman trying to get out of that slump, right, you don't have the same other areas of the game where you can make a contribution and feel as though, okay, I've got my mojo back. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I did see him early on try to be physical a couple times. And I'll give him credit. I remember specifically one play in the second period, I think it was on the power play, where there was a turnover at the blue line. He back checked hard. But if you're an offensive guy who's counted on to score goals and you're not scoring, well, what can I do next to help my team? Well, don't get scored on. But that obviously didn't go the way that an offensive guy wanted to go last night, being -3. I know there was I'm not pinpointing this on him at all, but I do think there's things that he can do that can significantly help the team.
They're headed to Nashville. You talk about the home ice vibes, and I would guess as a player, that lifts you up big time. But I would guess there's a coolness too as to walking into a cauldron. Now, Nashville is not Boston Garden, but they're a pretty raucous atmosphere, nevertheless. Do you remember getting up because of the atmosphere in the road barn during the playoffs?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes that galvanizes the team, right? Like when you're at home, depending on how teams have things structured, I know a lot of teams used to sequester their team, put them in a hotel, and it kind of changes your routine. I don't know what the Canucks are doing right now, but when you go on the road, there always seems to be less distractions. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I mean, you're with the guys 24/7. You're eating together, you're hanging out, you're watching video. You have nothing else really going on. You don't have your family around, you're not dealing with, your children, all these things that are obviously great things in your life, but at times can be a bit distracting. So I don't mind going on the road, and I liked it. I mean, you kind of have that mentality of kind of us against them and us against everybody in the rink here. So sometimes that's a really good thing for a team.
I know Rick talking, and the players all said, hey, we won't change our game because of who's in goal. Is that easier said than done? And is that particularly easier said than done after the backup has lost one?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Like, I mean, I think DeSmith has done a good job this year for Vancouver, right? I think he's come in and when he's been counted on to play, he's played well for the most part. I mean, you could say he had one poor game this year in Minnesota, right? You take that game out, his stats totally change. But and the support that he got from the fans last night, I mean, that was awesome when they introduced him, and then they were chanting his name early in the game, and unfortunately they get that high tip and it goes in when they're chanting his name. But that was from my perspective, and I said it to a couple of guys I was sitting with, that was a hard game for him to play last night. So he gets first shot on net, goes in, and then the puck isn't even in their zone for about 10 minutes, right? So I think as a goalie, you want to feel the puck early, like even if it's a dump and get out of your net, stop the puck, or, a long shot from the point, grab it, feel it. Well, he didn't get to touch the puck at all for 10 minutes into the game. So I think mentally he stayed in the game and battled. Like, again, second goal. I mean, you have an elite goal scorer, beats a guy out of the corner, walks in one-on-one.
Hell of a shot. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, that's a goal in any league against any goaltender.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one, he makes the initial save kind of and the rebound goes in. So you can't fault him for anything. I thought he did what he had to do. And it was a hard game for him to play.
Lastly, Brendan, last time we had you on, Blake mentioned that his son knew you, followed you, idolized you, and it had nothing to do with hockey. He was like, "Oh, he played
hockey, huh?
He played for the Canucks because of your fishing exploits, my friend." But I understand you're coming home to mama here a little bit and talking more hockey on your social channels. Yeah,
it was actually funny last night at the game. It's the odd person came up and said, "Hey, man, I love your fishing show." So it catches you off guard a little bit, especially at the arena. But the fishing thing has been awesome. We're doing our 8th year here, real West Coast. I have a ton of fun. Like, fishing's a huge passion of mine.
A clothing line too that I'm seeing. Are you doing a
clothing line, buddy? 8 years on the show. Wow.
I know, 8 years. And then the clothing line's been 2 years in progress, which is going to be, I think, it's going to be dynamite. Like, we're going to do a whole layering system with merino wool socks, merino wool, short sleeve, long sleeve hoodie, a insulated puffer jacket, and then rain gear. So, I mean, that's been a process. So I find myself now like staring at people like, what kind of material they got on there. It's kind of weird. Yeah, but fun. It's been awesome. So hopefully we can launch that in the fall here before Christmas is the plan. And then, and then, I've had a really good buddy of mine who I work with on the fishing show that's kind of convinced me to talk hockey. And I'm like, man, who wants to listen to me talk hockey? But it's been fun. Like, I'm going to just see how it goes, have some fun with it. I've had good feedback. So started a YouTube channel there to chat hockey. And I think I have a pretty good perspective on things, like with my history and now coaching quite a bit. I've coached my son kind of growing up, and now I've been involved coaching my daughter. So coaching 15 and 16-year-old girls, like, that's interesting. So they're a lot of fun, but it's a different dynamic for sure. So yeah, I think just sharing some experiences and that's what it's about, and having fun with it.
Brendan Morrison Hockey on YouTube, and your subs have doubled since the last few days that I even checked. So you're doing just fine in terms of the promotion of the channel so far. So that's great. And are you still spending a lot of time in Alberta? Or have you thought about peeling everybody back to the beautiful West Coast here, or what?
Yeah, we're kind of all over the map right now. Spending some time in Alberta. I got 2 kids going to school at Miami of Ohio. I got my third child, my daughter's going there to play soccer. So we'll have 3 kids at one university next year, which is nice for mom and dad when they go visit. Mm-hmm. So spending some time kind of back in that area and just outside of Detroit. And, but yeah, enjoying things, chasing kids right now and getting out to fish enough to kind of, take care
Costa
of
Rica last week. Were you here? Costa Rica last week?
I was, man. Yeah. I was. I have the best wife in the world. I mean, my buddies write me. She's like, "You're gone again. Like, your wife is a saint." I'm like, I know. I fooled her early. I fooled her early.
Yeah. Chasing kids, chasing fish, chasing subs on YouTube. Yeah. And of course, the legendary Vancouver Canuck enjoying himself at Rogers Arena this week. Great catching up, Brendan. Wish you all the best with the hockey YouTube channel. You've already got a template there, so I'm sure it will be a massive success for you. Thanks for the time. All the best. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.